Well, it's the first time that Derby County have lost 7 consecutive games outside the top flight since 1955. We'll talk about the positives of Clarke, and we'll also talk about whether the new faces around can save Derby. We're also talking about Pride Park as it become beyond toxic. Now, it's not helping the players at all. We'll look at the February fixtures, award some January Player of the Month awards, and complete our worst ever Derby side. We're doing that, of course, in the great company of Peyton and Kieran from Track DCFC. Thank you very much for joining us. Do drop us a subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Right, we are banned from talking about Paul Warne this week because we can't say the same thing every single week. So we'll throw one particular tweet in, but let's talk about the positives, shall we, of that Sheffield United result. Peyton, let's keep this positive. What was good about the 1-0 loss to the Blades?
Well, I mean, I'd say for the first half, we were quite in the game. And I'd say pretty much in the second half as well, we were in the game. We weren't ever looked like we were going to concede 3 or 4, which has been a story for the whole season, I'd say. Even when we have conceded 4 against Sheffield Wednesday and against Blackburn at the start of the season, we didn't look like we were going to concede 4. It just kind of happened. And it wasn't like we conceded 4 and didn't score one of our own. We got 2 in both of those games, and we're definitely in it. But I feel like it's been very often that we're in the game, but we're not in the game. And we are just kind of riding through a game for a 0-0 when, yeah.
Okay. Kieran, anything to add to that? Who stood out for you?
No, I agree. I felt like we were holding on for a draw, which is never really like the most positive thing you can say about a side. And again, I don't think it was. I'm glad it wasn't a cricket scoreline, considering where United are placed in the table. But yeah, not great really.
We'll look at some tweets. They weren't positives, but it was hard to find any. Stefan says it was the worst 90 minutes of football, attacking-wise, I've seen in a long time. Defensively, we were pretty good. Sheffield United hardly created anything, but the same with us, even more so. Clarke was the only player to come out with his head held high. The 11 that finished the game, half of them are League One level. How do you respond to that, Peyton? Is he right?
I think I disagree with a lot of the comments. I mean, Clarke well, what do you expect from Matt Clarke? He's a championship defender, has been for, 5 years since he came to us the first time. And I mean, he won Player of the Year with us, rightfully so. And to be honest, if he had a full season with the performance he put in against Sheffield United, I wouldn't be surprised if he won it again, because he looked miles better than, I'd say, every player on that pitch bar Evo Adams. And even Evo Adams didn't have a good game. Not really his own fault, seeing as he had to play centre-back for the second half. But I think seeing Clarke back in the side is definitely a big positive, because he's a proven championship defender and he will put in a 7 out of 10 every week.
Kieran, the other part of that tweet, the one underneath it says, and this was along the lines of what others were saying, was the atmosphere is toxic. Football has no identity. Our best player is gone. It's another weekend ruined, and there are quite a few saying, about Pride Park now that first of all, it starts out with no atmosphere, and then it quickly turns within 20 minutes of fans getting on players' backs and misplaced passes get, the volume of that is going up, and it's turning in not a nice place for the players to play football. How much of that do you agree with?
It was a difficult one. I felt when the full-time whistle went and, you had the chorus of boos, I personally don't completely agree with it, in the sense that I feel like when you go to watch a side, you go to support them. But at the end of the day, Derby have lost, I think it's 7 games now in a row. We've not won since Boxing Day. And you can understand the fans' frustration. You can understand the sentiment, why they're feeling so, disappointed and disheartened in the team, evidenced by the boos. So, it's difficult. But on the flip side, Derby have always historically secured the tendencies. And so I think a lot of Derby fans, I think a lot of us know we can be the 12th man. So if you get behind the side, especially with these up and coming games now, where I think we've got some fixtures that are winnable, especially at home, we've got got a side, we've got a chance.
Okay. Well said. Just a couple on these one then. Ad says, the only club in the world where we won't question the manager after 7 successive losses, sack him. I actually think Klaus will sack him. There's no way he sat there watching it thinking we've got a chance of staying up with this clown in charge. We're not spending much time on this week, but Peyton, you weren't here last week when we got into it. Is it time for him to go now?
I don't think you can get rid of him now. I mean, he needs to go, and I don't think there's a world where he salvages the poor form. And if I'm honest, I don't see us winning another game under him. However, I believe that the fact that he's brought in multiple players for a lot of money, I mean, we'll probably come on to it, but Sandro Langås is a very good signing and an expensive signing at that, coming up to about £4 million. You know, so we haven't spent £4 million since Mel Morris was throwing money around the most random players you could imagine. So seeing that and seeing the players we've signed, and there's more to come, obviously deadline day being tomorrow, I feel like you've got to give him at least a game to let the players that he's brought in see if that helps. But after that, I feel like if you can't get a point against Norwich and you can't get anything against, especially Oxford, seeing as where they are in the league compared to us, being a promoted side, at that point, you have to think there's no more time for him. And I feel like at that point, he's going to go.
Okay. Leads us nicely on to our next point about the new faces. Then, Kieran, what do you know about? What can you tell us about Sandro Langås?
I'm not going to pretend like I watch a lot of Norwegian football. Disappointed the Norwegian fans here, but yeah, no, from what I've read, he seems like a good signing. But we've committed a lot of money to him, and one thing I'm worried about. This is why I was hesitant to sell cash in. If Derby unfortunately get relegated, I don't think he's going to have any interest, especially if he's an international player for Norway, in playing League One football, which means that a club is just going to pick him up for peanuts, whether that's a club from Norway or a club in the UK. So it's a big risk. He's got a big responsibility. But I think with him and Matt Clarke, that should be a good enough defence to stay up. It should be. And so if you have that in the back, you've got, Zetterstrom in goal. Defensively, we're looking a bit sounder. So it's a good signing.
Yeah. Here's a view from Rich Holmes. We desperately needed to sign a right-sided centre-half, and he appears to arrive with a good pedigree. He's been capped twice by the national team. Let's hope the big Norwegian can hit the ground running and forge a strong partnership with Matt Clarke quickly, which I think echoes everything that you've just said there, Kieran, which is good stuff. About the Matt Clarke one then, Peyton. LBS says, great signing, Matt Clarke. Welcome home. After the game, though, it was Matt Clarke weirdly that went and did the post-match interviews, and lots of people were saying putting Clarke in front of the media when he's been part of one of the last 7 losses is criminal. By the way, Ram says, I'm appalled that Matt Clarke was sent out to talk to Radio Derby. I have no idea why that happened. It could have been that no other players were up for it. It could have been that the management team's suggestion neither reflect well on what is going on in that dressing room. What's your thoughts on that?
I think people are reading into it a little bit too much. He's the player that's just signed. He's come back for his 3rd spell. And at that point, you go, we bring in the player. He put in a good performance. And normally they tend to go with a player who put in a decent performance. But who else are you going to go? Who else is going to go out there and talk to the media? Because I think the ones that you'd want to go out in the media in a game like that are out injured. And you don't want to just have an injured player who's not been on the pitch go and talk to the media, do you? You don't want Kane Wilson going, I thought the lads played well today. It's like, well, there's not really much point because he was just sat there, probably sat on his phone for half the game. I think Matt Clarke doing it is smart because he's a level-headed player, and obviously he played the 90 minutes. Definitely could have gone someone else, maybe like Jakob Zetterstrom or even Jerry Yates, maybe. But I think people are reading into it a little bit too much. It's definitely a stupid decision, but at the end of the day, it's just an interview that they're talking about the performance of the game, aren't they? So,
okay. Right, we're not going to let you dig any further into that. Let's talk about what is coming up then for Derby this month in terms of fixtures. You've already highlighted what a big month it is. Kieran, it's Derby. Sorry, it's Derby. It's Norwich then this weekend. They feel that they owe you one because of the ridiculous refereeing decisions in the prior game. Come on to that in a second. And then you've got Oxford and Millwall at home. So with a QPR on a Friday night away as well. How do you see this month going in terms of points?
I feel like I did have a look at the table. And I think if Norwich were to win and results go their way, they would go into the playoffs. So I know they'll be, really up for that. And I don't really remember many times we've gone up to their ground and got many points besides that crazy game when I think Tomori scored. Against QPR as well away, I don't see us getting any points up there as well. So really those home games against Oxford and Millwall are going to be crucial. I would hope the target is 6 points for those home games. But again, Rowett has got Oxford, moving very strong. I think Millwall now are starting to also, gel a little bit better than they did at the start of the season. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough month.
Do you both worry that, this weekend Plymouth won as well? Hull have put some results together. Portsmouth have done all right. Cardiff have been on a run of eight games. There's really, at the moment, only yourselves and Luton of all the teams at the bottom there that can't find a win. Even all the others are putting together some kind of results. And Peyton, I know you said earlier about giving him a couple more games, but if you don't start winning or even drawing soon, then this is going to be really bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'll genuinely be honest with you. I don't see us getting a single point this month if Paul Warne's in charge all month. I don't see it. And that is quite a scary thing to think when we've got a game against Oxford who came up with us in the playoffs. And if I'm honest with you, their team looked poor at the start of the season. But they got Rowett in. He's a proven manager. He doesn't play the best football in the world, but he gets results. And he's brought in some incredible players. And they're look at what they are now. They're getting results against big teams, which we needed to be doing and haven't been. I still think that there's probably 2 or 3 teams above us that very much could drop into the relegation zone and we could stay out of it. But I feel like you almost need to pull the trigger on a manager soon to give them an opportunity to get the points to keep us up.
Okay. We promised we wouldn't talk about it, but I think every Derby fan listening to this will be nodding their head along with you there, Peyton. And almost as a neutral board of saying the same things, Kieran. But what's the talk in the terraces and in the pubs around the grounds? And are people kind of looking at each other, going, "Well, yeah, we're going to stop asking for it now because it ain't happening"?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it a few episodes ago. I do think Paul Warne's job's safe till the end of the season. The reason I think that is I think he's the best person suited to get us back up, which isn't an incredibly positive mentality. But I would, if Derby lose against Norwich and we lose against Oxford, not only is that a massive defeat to Oxford, but I think that defeat at Oxford would match our worst ever losing streak in our entire club's history. And if that's attached to Paul Warne's name, there's not many managers in Europe or let alone football itself that could survive that many losses. So it's going to be it's going to be a very interesting one for the owners and the management side.
Yeah, all right. We'll keep all abreast across it. Of course, we will. Don't forget, we do 20 minutes of this every single week. Thank you for watching. January's over now, so we need to, if we can, fellas, give a player their flowers for how they performed. Is there anyone in particular, Kieran, that you think needs a shout out? Who would you give your unsung player of the month award to?
I don't know if any Derby players truly deserve that title. However, I thought the new signing Salverson, again, I felt he's come with a very positive attitude. He could have been, very much hiding behind the sidelines, maybe hiding against Derby's form, but he's come out all guns blazing. I think he seems positive, and he could be a positive linchpin going into the latter part of the season. So yeah, I'll go for him.
Okay, Peyton.
I think player of the month wise, there's only one player who even deserves it, and that's Ebu Adams, because he's the only player it seems like he wants to put 100% in every week, and he's still absolutely incredible somehow. Although we've lost 7 games, he still feels like he's a great player. And I feel like unsung. I think I agree with the Salverson. He always looks like he's going to score, which is something that we haven't had, I think, since before administration started. Because there's not been a player at Derby where you think if he gets an opportunity, he's going to bury it. Maybe McGoldrick in that first season in League One, but other than that, I feel like Salverson is the man. And if we can give him the service, he will pretty comfortably, I think, get 10 goals.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that, both of you. Let's move on to the final element of this week then, which is the worst ever Derby midfield that we've ever seen. We've been putting this together for a couple of weeks now. Let's see what you come up with. First of all, can you help us with this in the comments, of course, below? We want you to let us know and we're going back 20 years in now, but who are the worst midfielders you've seen play for Derby County? Do drop us a comment there. Right, Kieran, can you kick this off for us?
I don't think he was necessarily the worst player to pass through our doors, but I felt like it was just kind of embarrassing having his name attached to the club. He came in with a bit of a joke. Robbie Savage. I just felt I got a lot of slack when I was at school with him in the side. So yeah, Robbie Savage I thought was awful. I'm sure there's a few midfielders from that 07-08 season who could definitely be comfortable in there. But yeah, Robbie Savage, I think, for me.
Okay, Peyton?
I've got a couple names. I think Benny Beningame, we brought him in on loan from Everton, and he was gracefully part of that starting 11 that was widely regarded as the worst thing a Derby fan's ever seen ever. And then I'd say also, maybe a bit unjust, Marcus Harness. He's not a central midfielder, but he's been playing there all season, and I can't lie, I don't think I've ever seen him do anything good. He scored a couple of goals, but other than that, in central midfield, he seems lost. And I don't think I've seen a group of fans around me complain about a player more than about Marcus Harness even being on the pitch. So I'm going to have to go Marcus Harness, I'd say.
Okay, I feel really bad putting current players in this side. So let us know in the comments if they've missed any from yesteryear. Right, thank you very much, you two. Enjoy your trip to Norwich. It's a bit of a journey, that one, if you're heading down there. So safe travels to all Derby County fans on their way there. We'll be back in 7 days' time to review it all, and we're choosing the worst ever Derby County manager next week as well. So join us for that. Thank you, Peyton. Thank you, Kevin. Have a good week, all.